All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Tanvi Taneja and with me is Subhadra Ramachandran. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacts with Chief Ministers of 10 worst corona-affected states, stresses need for more testing and tracing to contain the pandemic. Government opens 91 Jan Aushadhi Kendras in Jammu and Kashmir and 3 in Ladakh region this year. Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar launches ICAR's Data Recovery Centre, Krishi Megh. Supreme Court gives equal inheritance right to daughters from 1956. CBDT unearths money laundering worth over 1,000 crore rupees involving Chinese nationals. Janmashtami, birth of Lord Krishna, being celebrated today in different parts of the country. And Indian origin Senator Kamala Harris named US Vice Presidential candidate for Democratic Party. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has interacted with Chief Ministers of 10 worst corona-affected states through video conferencing yesterday to review the situation. This was the 7th such interaction with Chief Ministers on the coronavirus crisis. The Prime Minister said, "Our experience so far is that containment, contact tracing and surveillance are the most effective weapons against COVID-19. Mr. Modi said there is an urgent need to ramp up testing in Bihar, Gujarat, UP, West Bengal and Telangana.
टेस्टिंग की संख्या बढ़कर हर दिन 7 लाख तक पहुंच चुकी है और लगातार बढ़ भी रही है। इससे संक्रमण को पहचानने और रोकने में जो मदद मिल रही है, हम उसके परिणाम देख रहे हैं। हमारे यहाँ एवरेज फर्टिलिटी रेट पहले भी दुनिया के मुकाबले काफी कम था। संतोष की बात है कि ये लगातार और कम हो रहा है। एक्टिव केसेस का प्रतिशत कम हुआ है, रिकवरी रेट लगातार बढ़ता जा रहा है। तो इसका अर्थ ये है कि हमारे प्रयास कारगर सिद्ध हो रहे हैं।
The Prime Minister said that India will win against coronavirus if 10 states defeat it. Mr. Modi said these 10 states account for over 80% of the active COVID-19 cases in the country.
इन 10 राज्यों के एक साथ बैठ करके हम समीक्षा करें, चर्चा करें और उनकी जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस है, उन्होंने किस किस प्रकार के नए इनिशिएटिव लिए हैं, वे सबके ध्यान में आए, क्योंकि हर कोई अपने अपने तरीके से प्रयास कर ही रहा है। और आज की इस चर्चा से हमें एक दूसरे के अनुभवों से काफी कुछ सीखने को, समझने को मिला है। कहीं न कहीं ये एक भाव आज निकल कर आया है कि अगर हम मिलकर अपने इन 10 राज्यों में कोरोना को हरा देते हैं तो देश भी जीत जाएगा।
Mr. Modi said we need to follow a new mantra. All those who have come in contact with an infected person should be traced and tested within 72 hours. He said experts now say if we identify COVID-19 cases within 72 hours of onset, then infection slows down to a great extent. The Health Ministry has said that successful implementation of containment strategy, aggressive testing, coupled with standardized clinical management of critical patients has resulted in an increase of COVID-19 recovery rate. It is nearly 70% across the country, while the case fatality rate has fallen below 2%. The ministry said with more patients recuperating and being discharged from hospitals and home isolation, the total recoveries have jumped to 15,83,489. 47,746 patients were discharged in a span of 24 hours. The national recovery rate has risen to 69.8%. Focus on improved and effective clinical treatment in hospitals, use of non-invasive improved coordinated services of the ambulances for ferrying patients for prompt and timely treatment have resulted in seamless, efficient patient management of COVID-19 patients. As a result, the case fatality rate, which has been low as compared to the global average, has fallen below 2% and currently stands at 1.99%.
An expert committee under the chairmanship of Niti Aayog member Dr. V.K. Paul will meet today to consider the logistics and ethical aspects of procuring and administering the COVID-19 vaccine. Health Ministry said the Committee on Vaccine Administration will engage with all the stakeholders, including state governments and vaccine manufacturers. Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan said the committee would chalk out strategies on the aspects of prioritization of the vaccine administration once it is developed, rollout and cold chain logistics and training of the people who would be administering it.
वैक्सीन प्रोक्योरमेंट या ड्रग प्रोक्योरमेंट या डायग्नोस्टिक प्रोक्योरमेंट के बहुत सारे परंपरागत तरीके इस देश में पहले से हैं, हेल्थ सेक्टर में हैं। तो इस एक्सपर्ट कमेटी का मुख्य जो मैंडेट है, जैसा मैंने कहा कि वैक्सीन का सिलेक्शन, उसका डिलीवरी, उसका प्रोक्योरमेंट, प्रायोरिटाइजेशन, लॉजिस्टिक्स, इक्विटी, इस तरह के मामलों में सरकार को परामर्श देना है।
ICMR had said that the Phase 1 human clinical trials of the two COVID-19 vaccine candidates developed indigenously by Bharat Biotech in collaboration with the Indian Council of Medical Research and Zedas Cadila Limited have been completed and the trials are moved to Phase 2. The Serum Institute of India Pune has also been permitted for conducting Phase 2 and 3 human clinical trials of the Oxford University developed COVID-19 vaccine candidate in the country. Israel has given state-of-the-art artificial intelligence-based technologies and high-end equipment to AIIMS, Delhi, as part of Israel-India cooperation to fight the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Israeli ambassador to India, Dr. Ron Malka, formally handed over the high-end equipment and technology solutions to Director of AIIMS, Dr. Randeep Guleria, in the presence of Chief Guest Sanjay Bhattacharya, Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, yesterday.
The government has released 6,195 crore rupees to 14 states as the fifth equated monthly installment of the post-devolution revenue deficit grant as recommended by the 15th Finance Commission. In a tweet, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said this will provide them additional resources during the corona crisis. Bihar has recorded its highest ever single-day cases of corona with 4,071 people testing positive during the past 24 hours. With this, positive cases mounted to 86,812. Number of casualties due to COVID became 465 with reporting of 15 more deaths. 57,039 patients have been recovered from the virus infection. Recovery rate in Bihar stands at 66%. 83,314 samples were tested during the last 24 hours. Altogether, 11,80,000 samples have been tested for COVID-19 in Bihar so far. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has requested the centre to provide more equipment to enable Bihar to achieve the target of testing 1 lakh people per day, along with increasing the number of tests through the RT-PCR method.
In Gujarat, 1,140 COVID-19 patients recovered during the past 24 hours. The recovery rate in the state has gone up to 77.03%. State government is constantly raising its daily test capacity. More from our correspondent.
Gujarat government is constantly increasing its daily test capacity with the help of 59 government and private labs. Maximum 41,647 tests were carried out in a single day yesterday. With these, more than 10,58,000 tests have been carried out in the state till date. Meanwhile, 1,118 new patients of COVID-19 recorded in the state yesterday. The maximum 177 new cases reported from Surat, while Ahmedabad city recorded 139 new cases. Total cases of COVID-19 in the state have gone up to 73,238. Meanwhile, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation has added 12 new areas in the micro-containment zone. Door-to-door surveillance and mass screening will be launched in the new areas from today. Yogesh Pandya, AR News, Ahmedabad.
In Madhya Pradesh, the number of coronavirus cases in the state rose to 40,734 after 843 more people tested positive for the infection in the past 24 hours. The death toll due to the pandemic reached 1,033 with 18 patients succumbing yesterday. A report.
The highest 176 new cases were reported from Indore, followed by 100 in Bhopal and 89 in Gwalior. The State Home Minister Narottam Mishra informed that 922 coronavirus patients were discharged.
नए केस के साथ साथ डिस्चार्ज होने की संख्या भी हमारी ठीक है और यही कारण है कि हमारी अब 75% रिकवरी रेट हो गई है.
The corona testing capacity is being increased continuously for quick identification of patients and their treatment in the state. Overall, 9,31,000 tests have been conducted so far in the state. During the review meeting of the situation of COVID-19 and arrangements in the state through video conferencing, the Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has instructed that arrangements of treatment for patients with minor symptoms should be made at home. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
Tamil Nadu government has allowed all schools in the state to admit students for the current academic year from coming Monday. A government statement issued in Chennai said that safety protocols should be followed during the admission process. A report.
Schools in Tamil Nadu have been allowed to admit students for the first, 6th and 9th standards for the ongoing academic year from Monday. Migration of students from one school to another is also permitted for all the classes. However, the admission for the 11th standard would be held from the 24th of this month, as the 10th results have just been announced the day before yesterday and the students are yet to receive their mark statements. Meanwhile, the State Matriculation Schools Directorate is taking measures for the parents of lower economic strata to apply online for the admission of their wards in private schools under the Right to Education Act 2009. Jai Singh, AIR News, Chennai.
In Karnataka, the total number of COVID-19 recovered patients have crossed 1 lakh mark yesterday. As per the State Health Bulletin, 6,257 new COVID patients were confirmed yesterday, and the total number of patients have gone up to 1,88,611. The state recovery rate continues to improve and stands at 55.99%. More from our correspondent.
Among the new cases, Bengaluru city reported 1,610 cases, Ballari 736, Belagavi 575 and Dharwad 276. 79,606 active cases are taking treatment in various hospitals in the state. There were 86 COVID deaths reported yesterday. The mortality rate of the state is 1.80%. In a single day yesterday, 43,924 COVID tests were conducted across the state in 100 labs and the total tests have gone up to 17,72,991. Meanwhile, the Karnataka Health Department announced a revised discharge policy for the COVID-19 patients. Accordingly, asymptomatic, mild and moderate patients should go for 7 days home isolation instead of 14 days after discharge. R. Murthy, AIR News, Bengaluru.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacts with chief ministers of 10 worst corona-affected states. Stresses need for more testing and tracing to contain the pandemic. Government opens 91 Jan Aushadhi Kendras in Jammu and Kashmir and 3 in Ladakh region this year. Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar launches ICAR's Data Recovery Centre, Krishi Megh. Supreme Court gives equal inheritance right to daughters from 1956. CBDT unearths money laundering worth over 1,000 crore rupees involving Chinese nationals. Janmashtami, birth of Lord Krishna, being celebrated today in different parts of the country. And Indian origin Senator Kamala Harris named U.S. Vice Presidential candidate for Democratic Party. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar has launched ICAR's Data Recovery Centre, Krishi Megh. The move is aimed at protecting the precious data of the government's premier research body, Indian Council of Agricultural Research. It has been set up at the National Academy of Agricultural Research Management, NAARM, in Hyderabad. Currently, the main data centre of the ICAR is at the Indian Agricultural Statistics Research Institute, IASRI, in the national capital. Krishi Megh has been set up under the National Agricultural Higher Education Project, NAHEP, funded by both the government and the World Bank. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Tomar said NAARM Hyderabad has been chosen as it lies in a different seismic zone with regard to the data centre at ICAR IASRI in New Delhi. The government has opened 91 Jan Aushadhi Kendras in Jammu and Kashmir and 3 in Ladakh region between January and July this year. Chemical and Fertilizer Ministry said Bureau of Pharma PSUs of India, BPPI, opened these Jan Aushadhi Kendras with the aim of making available quality generic medicines at an affordable price to the residents of these regions. The total sales in the last 1 year has crossed 4 crore 39 lakh rupees in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, which led to total savings of 31 crore rupees for residents of this area. The ministry said the government of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh have proposed to open 73 new Jan Aushadhi Kendras, for which locations have already been identified. BPPI have supplied over 1 crore 56 lakh sanitary pads to Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The National Health Mission has been distributing these pads free of cost to young girls and women as a part of Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram.
In a landmark judgment, Supreme Court has ruled that daughters will have inheritance rights equal to those of sons from properties of fathers and grandfathers right from the codification of the law in 1956. A bench of Justices Arun Mishra, S. Abdul Nazir and M. Harsha cleared the confusion arising from the Apex Court's conflicting interpretations of the amended Section 6 of Hindu Succession Act, which came into force from September 9, 2005. The bench said whether the father is alive or not, daughters born before September 9, 2005 too can claim equal rights in inheritance. The Apex Court said daughters cannot be deprived of their right to equality conferred by Section 6 of the Act. The Apex Court was answering a reference based on conflicting decisions given by past verdicts of the top court. Although the amendment was applicable to Hindu daughters as co-parceners who died after coming of the Act, there was no clarity on whether it will have a retrospective effect. In Jammu and Kashmir, one terrorist was killed in an encounter with security forces in Pulwama district today. The encounter broke out after security forces launched a search operation in an orchard in Kamrazipura village early this morning on receiving information about the presence of terrorists there. The identity of the slain terrorist is being ascertained. One security personnel was also killed in the gun battle. We spoke to DGP Dilbagh Singh about the encounter.
जी पुलवामा के ऑर्चर्ड में मिलिटेंट के छुपे होने की इत्तला के ऊपर पुलिस और आर्मी के द्वारा ऑपरेशन चलाया गया था पिछली रात को, जिसमें एक आतंकी अभी तक मारा गया है। अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारे आर्मी के 2 जवान भी जख्मी हो गए। इसमें एक जवान हमारा शहीद हो गया, दूसरा अभी हॉस्पिटल में जेर इलाज है। एक आतंकी की डेड बॉडी और आर्म्स अम्यूनिशन पकड़ा गया है। अभी बहुत बड़ा इलाका है ऑर्चर्ड का, जिसकी सर्च इस वक्त जारी है और सर्च अभी काफी देर तक चलती रहेगी।
The Central Board of Direct Taxes, CBDT, has unearthed money laundering worth over 1,000 crore rupees involving Chinese and Indian nationals. Income Tax Department has conducted search on the premises of Chinese entities, their close confederates and couple of bank employees. CBDT said, based on the credible information that few Chinese individuals and their Indian associates were involved in money laundering and hawala transactions through series of shell entities, a search action was mounted. Search action revealed that at the behest of Chinese individuals, more than 40 bank accounts were created in various dummy entities, entering into credits of more than 1,000 crore rupees over the period. A subsidiary of Chinese company and its related concerns had taken over 100 crore rupees bogus advances from shell entities for opening businesses of retail showrooms in India.
Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank has virtually launched the Minimum Standards of Architectural Education Regulations 2020 in New Delhi. Addressing the participants, Mr. Pokhriyal highlighted about unique architectural beauty of India, its monuments and temples. He said that Council of Architecture should draw inspiration from the present and past treasures of architecture and bring a paradigm shift in the field of architecture to make India a world leader again. The minister said the architecture of India is rooted in its history, culture and religion. The Education Minister addressed a webinar on Gandhian thought and philosophy organized by Jamia Millia Islamia in association with the University of Oxford yesterday. It was the first lecture in the webinar series on Gandhian thought and philosophy. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Pokhriyal said, Gandhiji's thoughts guide people on many aspects like truth, peace, non-violence, sustainable development, environmental protection and value-based education.
In the run-up to the 74th Independence Day celebrations, we bring you today a special story about the initiatives in the defence sector. In the last 6 years, government has taken many important decisions on defence. Ending a 4-decade-long wait for veterans, Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led NDA government announced the One Rank, One Pension scheme for ex-servicemen. Government's guideline that women should be considered for command roles and that all women officers are entitled to permanent commission is a major boost to empower women. In a major boost to the Armed Forces, the Defence Acquisition Council, DAC, yesterday approved the procurement of defence equipment for an approximate cost of over 8,722 crore rupees, including 106 basic trainer aircrafts for the Indian Air Force. The step will strengthen the armed forces by relying on indigenous capability to take forward the initiative on Atmanirbhar Bharat. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh's recent announcement of a negative import list of 101 defence items as a major step towards self-reliant India is in line with this thinking of making the country self-reliant in defence production. Speaking to AIR News, Director of Society for Policy Studies, Commodore Uday Bhaskar said, the recent announcement by the Ministry of Defence regarding the new policy about enforcing an embargo on 101 inventory is a significant policy decision.
Regarding the new policy is a significant policy decision in terms of drawing attention to the need for India to acquire the appropriate level of self-sufficiency in certain major military platforms and other equipment. I think the way in which the Modi government and the resolve that has been exuded by Mr. Rajnath Singh may provide the necessary traction for India to now evolving the appropriate policies.
Government is giving emphasis on positioning India among the top countries of the world in defence and aerospace sectors from design to production, with the active participation of public and private sector fulfilling the twin objectives of self-reliance and exports.
Tribal Affairs Ministry is developing tribal freedom fighters museums dedicated to the contribution of tribal people in India to the freedom struggle. Out of 9 sanctioned museums, 2 museums are near completion and remaining 7 are at different stages of progress. The ministry said that by the end of 2022, all the museums will come into existence. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had announced setting up of these tribal freedom fighters museums during his Independence Day speech on 15th of August 2016. In view of the COVID-19 pandemic, Odisha government has decided to keep the upcoming Independence Day celebrations a low-key affair across the state. In its guidelines issued to the district collectors and superintendents of police, the government has asked them to restrict the number of guests to a bare 50 to 75, including 15 to 20 healthcare professionals. The festival of Janmashtami, which marks the birth of Lord Krishna, is being celebrated in different parts of the country today. In Uttar Pradesh, Janmashtami is being celebrated with all the rituals at Mathura, birthplace of Lord Krishna, and Vrindavan. The devotees will not be allowed entry to the temples due to coronavirus. However, arrangements have been made to live stream the puja for devotees. Our correspondent has more.
Rhymes and slogans on the birth of Lord Krishna are reverberating entire Mathura city and adjoining areas. Although devotees from outside of Mathura will not be allowed to enter the city, and devotees from various countries are also not here on this auspicious day due to corona pandemic. But that could not deter people of Mathura to celebrate the birthday of Lord Krishna in a grand manner. At Krishna Janmabhoomi, Mangala Aarti was performed in the early morning at Bhagvat Bhavan temple, and Thakurji was in new clothes. Secretary of the Sri Krishna Janma Seva Sansthan, Kapil Sharma, told AIR that all rituals will be performed in traditional way and a special decoration is being done at Bhagvat Bhavan. All temples in Mathura, Vrindavan, Gokul, Nandgram, Govardhan and Barsana are adorned with flowers and beautiful lighting. With Muhammad Umar Qureshi in Mathura, this is Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
President Ramnath Kovind, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi have greeted people on the occasion of Janmashtami. The festival to mark the birth of Lord Krishna, Janmashtami, is also being celebrated in Bangladesh. The festival is somewhat muted this year due to the outbreak of corona pandemic in the country. All the religious rituals and programs are being held inside the temples with health guidelines in place. President Abdul Hamid and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina greeted the Hindu community on the occasion of Janmashtami festival.
In the United States, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has named Indian-origin Senator Kamala Harris as his vice presidential running mate. Joe Biden made history by selecting the first black woman to compete on a major party's presidential ticket. Kamala Harris is currently the U.S. Senator from California. Former U.S. President Barack Obama has often described her as a trailblazer. If elected, Kamala Harris would be the first ever woman to be the Vice President of the United States and the first ever Indian American and African Vice President of the country. Daughter of an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, Harris has known many firsts. She has been a country district attorney, the district attorney for San Francisco, the first woman and first African American and Indian origin to be elected to the position. She was also the first female African American and Indian origin to become California's Attorney General. Harris became the first Indian origin and second African American woman to join the Senate, winning the California seat vacated by Senator Barbara Boxer. Leading Indian American groups across the U.S. have lauded the selection of Kamala Harris as a vice presidential candidate, saying it was a moment of pride and celebration for the entire community in America. India Meteorological Department has said that heavy rainfall is likely to hit isolated places of coastal Maharashtra, including Mumbai, till 15th August. Deputy Director General of IMD Mumbai, K.S. Hosalikar, said that coastal areas as well as Ghat sections of Maharashtra have shown dense cloud formation, and many areas are expected to receive medium to heavy rainfall over the next 2 days. While Mumbai is expected to receive light to moderate showers, neighbouring districts of Thane, Palghar, Raigad and Ratnagiri may witness heavy rains at isolated places. A similar forecast has been issued for Pune, Kolhapur and Satara districts as well. However, districts in North Maharashtra, Marathwada and Vidarbha may receive light to moderate rainfall in the same period.
Now let us take a look at today's weather update. National capital Delhi may witness generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. Minimum temperature was recorded at 27 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be around 32 degrees. Mumbai will experience a generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. Minimum temperature was 24 degrees Celsius and the maximum temperature will be around 30 degrees. Chennai will have a generally cloudy sky with light rain or drizzle. The temperature will hover between 26 and 34 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Minimum temperature in the metropolis was 27 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 33 degrees. On to the north. In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature in Jammu was 26 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 34 degrees Celsius. The city may have a partly cloudy sky today with possibility of rain or thunderstorm. In Srinagar, the minimum temperature was 17 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 34 degrees Celsius. The city will have a mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. In Gilgit, the temperature will hover between 18 and 36 degrees Celsius. It will experience a partly cloudy sky, becoming generally cloudy towards afternoon or evening. In Muzaffarabad, partly cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm is expected today. The minimum temperature was 22 degrees Celsius, while the maximum temperature will be around 36 degrees. In Dehradun, the temperature will hover between 24 and 30 degrees Celsius. The city may have a generally cloudy sky with few spells of rain or thunder showers.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. A significant judgment of the Supreme Court expanding rights for daughters in Hindu undivided family property finds top coverage in most newspapers. Daughters have equal right to father's property as sons, rules SC highlights the Asian age. Reporting on the country's battle against COVID-19, the Tribune reports PM asks 10 worst hit states to buck up, push for more testing. The Hindu reports COVID deaths dropped to single digit in Delhi. Russia becoming the first country to approve a coronavirus vaccine also gets wide coverage. The Times of India writes, named Sputnik 5, Putin unveils first vaccine, experts vary, with some warning that moving too quickly on a vaccine could be dangerous. The Hindustan Times reports 4G to return in J&K after August 15 on trial basis. Centre tells SC, relaxations in one district, each of Jammu Kashmir at a time, adds the paper. People's poet Rahat Indori passes away, writes the Hindu, as eminent Urdu poet succumbed to COVID-19 related complications yesterday. And finally, the Indian Express writes, to reward honest taxpayers, PM plans new transparent scheme. According to the daily sources, the program could be announced to the public on August 15.
And now, before we end the bulletin, here are the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacts with chief ministers of 10 worst corona-affected states, stresses need for more testing and tracing to contain the pandemic. Government opens 91 Jan Aushadhi Kendras in Jammu and Kashmir and 3 in Ladakh region this year. Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar launches ICAR's Data Recovery Centre Krishi Megh. Supreme Court gives equal inheritance right to daughters from 1956. CBDT unearths money laundering worth over 1,000 crore rupees involving Chinese nationals. Janmashtami, birth of Lord Krishna being celebrated today in different parts of the country. And Indian origin Senator Kamala Harris named US Vice Presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.